Hello students, welcome to all. Myself Amol Palve. In the last lecture, we completed the chapter number 12, magnetism, belongs to part 2nd of 11th physics. Now today we are going to start a new chapter, which is chapter number 5. The name of the chapter is gravitation. Today we are going to study the chapter number 5, gravitation. So let's start the chapter number 5. What is gravitation? We know many natural phenomena like coconut falling on the earth, falling from trees on the earth, raindrops falling from the clouds, etc. That the same tendency is observed. All bodies are attracted towards the center of the earth with a constant acceleration. This fact was recognized by the Italian physicist Galileo. Also, some phenomena here we have to study in this chapter, that is the about the motion of the planet around the sun. You know, very artificial satellites which are revolving around the earth. So we have to discuss here in this chapter what is the path of that satellites there. Then we know every massive object in the universe experience gravitational force. It is the force of mutual attraction between any two objects by virtue of their masses. It is always an attractive force with infinite range. It does not depend upon intervening medium. So we know if we throw any object away from the earth, then that object is attracted towards the earth. So the reason behind it is gravitational force, and this gravitational force is present in between any two objects in the universe here. This force is has infinite range. It is not depend on upon intervening medium. This force of attraction is not depend upon the medium in which that objects are placed. It is much weaker than other fundamental forces. See, in the earlier chapter, that is in laws of motion, we study about some fundamental forces, that is nuclear forces, gravitational forces, electrostatic forces. So out of these, this gravitational force is much weaker. Gravitational force is 10 raised to minus 39 times weaker than the strong nuclear force. This force is 10 raised to minus 39 times weaker than this strong nuclear force. So this is the weaker force than any other fundamental forces there. So let's see what is that gravitational force which is of attraction, which is present in between any two bodies in the universe. So let's see about it. So here in the chapter, first we have to study about Kepler's laws. So let's study about Kepler's laws. Kepler's law about planetary motion. So here we know every planet is revolving around the sun. So here in which path that planets are revolving around the sun, that is stated, that is explained by Kepler's here in his 3 laws. So let's see the Kepler's laws. Kepler's laws of planetary motion describe the orbits of planets around the sun. He published first 2 laws in 1609 and the third law in 1619. These laws are the result of the analysis of the data collected by Tycho Brahe through years of observations of the planetary motion. So here we have to study these laws of planetary motion about the orbits of the planets. So let's see what is the Kepler's first law. The Kepler's first law is called as law of orbit. Kepler's first law is called as law of orbits. So see here what is the first Kepler's law states that here the first Kepler's law is all planets move in an elliptical orbit around the sun with the sun at one of the foci of ellipse. So what is the statement of Kepler's first law? See, Kepler's first law, all planets move in elliptical orbit orbits around the sun with sun is at one of the foci of the ellipse. So this is the Kepler's first law there, which is called a law of orbit there. So the statement of law of orbit is that all planets move in a elliptical orbit around the earth with the sun is situated at any one foci of the earth. So what is that? See in the diagram. See here, suppose S is the sun here, and we know according to Kepler's law, every planet is revolving around the sun in an elliptical orbit. So suppose this is the orbit in which the planet is revolving. Here S and S dash, these are the two positions of the sun which are the foci of ellipse also. The orbit of a planet around the sun is shown in figure. So the orbit in which the planet is revolving around the sun is shown in figure. Here S and S dash, in the figure these two quantity S and S dash, these two are the foci of the ellipse, and the sun being at S. Suppose the sun is at S. The position of sun is any one of these two foci. So here we consider the sun is at S here. Now see P. What is P? P is the point, closest point to the sun. See, P is here. So P is the closest point to the sun along the orbit from the sun. It's called perihelion. This P is called perihelion. So see, this P is very closest point to the sun along the orbit. So this P is called perihelion. A is the farthest point on the orbit. A is the farthest point from the sun on the orbit. So it is called aphelion. Perihelion, aphelion. So perihelion is the closest point. Aphelion is the farthest point. Here P to A is called PA is called major axis. PA is called major axis of ellipse, which is 2A. Major axis of ellipse is 2A. PO. See, O is the center, so PO and OA, these two are called semi-major axis. PA and PO PO and OA are called semi-major axis. PA is the major axis and PO and OA are called semi-major axis. Then MN is the vertical axis which is passing through center here. That MN is called minor axis. MN is called minor axis and whose value is 2b. Okay, this is minor axis. Then again MO and ON, these are called semi-minor axis. These are called semi-minor axis and semi-minor axis is equal to B. So see, by using the law of orbit, that is the Kepler's law of orbit, here the statement of Kepler's law is, according to Kepler's law, all planets are moving in a elliptical orbits around the sun, with the sun is situated at one of the foci of ellipse. Now here this diagram shows the elliptical orbit. Sun is situated at S here. S is the position of sun here. Now P is the closest point here, so this point is called perihelion. A is the farthest point from the sun, that is called aphelion. PA is the major axis, MN is the minor axis, PO, OA are the semi-major axis, and MO, ON are the semi-minor axis. So this is about the Kepler's first law. Now let's see the Kepler's second law. Let's see what is the statement of Kepler's second law here. Second, that is called law of areas. Kepler's second law is called law of areas. Let's see what is the law of areas there. See here, the line that joins a planet, the law of area states that the line that joins the planet and the sun the line that joins the planet and the sun sweeps equal area in areas in equal interval of time. So here the line which joins the sun and planet sweeps equal areas in equal intervals of time. See, this is the statement of Kepler's second law. The line that joins the planet and the sun sweeps equal areas in equal interval of time. So Kepler observed that planets do not move around the sun with the same speed or with the uniform speed. So when the planet is revolving around the sun, then the speed of planet is not same. It is observed by the Keplers. So he concludes he tells that the line which joins the sun and planet. So here suppose S is the position of sun in the diagram, and the line here, that four lines are here, S to P, this is the line. These lines sweeps out equal area in equal interval of time. So here Kepler's observed that planets do not move around the sun with a constant speed. They move faster when they are nearer to the sun, while they move slower when they are away from the sun. This is explained by this law. So see here what this law tells, that the Kepler's law of area tells that when the sun is nearer to when the planet is nearer to the sun. See in the diagram, if I show here, suppose this is A and B. So when the planet is moving A to B, here according to the direction when the planet is moving from A to B, that is nearer to sun, then the speed of planet is faster there, and when the planet is move here P to move from P here, then it is farthest away from the sun, then the speed is slower one here. This is explained by this law. This figure shows the orbit of the planet. The shaded areas are the areas swept by SP. See here, SP is the area shaded by from here. These two areas are shaded by the line SP, the line joining the planet and the sun. In fixed interval of time, these are equal according to the second law. So these two areas are sweeps by the line SB in the same interval of time. So these areas are equal according to this law. The law of areas can be understood as an outcome of conservation of angular momentum. It is valid only for central forces. This law of area is valid for central forces. Central force. A central force or an object on an object is a force which is always directed along the line joining the position of object and a fixed point, usually taken to be the origin of coordinate system. So central force is what? Central force is always acting along the line joining the body and the origin of coordinate system. So the force of gravity due to the sun on the planet is always along the line joining the sun and planet. So it is thus the gravitational force is called central force. Suppose the sun be at origin. Suppose if we take that sun is at origin, the position of planet is denoted by r bar. That r bar is the position vector here. R bar is what? R bar is position vector, and perpendicular component of its momentum is denoted by p bar. See, this p bar is the perpendicular component of momentum. R bar is the position vector which gives the position of planet with respect to origin, that is sun is at the origin. Now the area, so here the area swept by planet. So here the area swept by planet of mass m in time delta t, swept by area of mass planet of mass m in time delta t is. Now see here, if SP is the position, r bar is the position vector of p planet according to the origin, that is sun, then the area swept by planet of mass m in time delta t is delta A, which is delta A bar is equal to, see, delta A bar is equal to 1 upon 2 in bracket r bar cross v bar into delta t. Here r bar is the distance and v bar delta t, that is velocity into time, it is also a distance. As so here as the time interval is small, so delta t is small. As delta t is small, this v bar is perpendicular to r bar. If I take that delta t is very small, then we can say that the v bar is perpendicular to r bar, and hence we get here, and hence for small delta t. So see what I write for small delta t, for smaller time, for small delta t, delta A bar upon delta t is equal to 1 upon 2 in bracket r bar cross v bar. So here I get delta A bar upon delta t is equal to 1 upon 2 into r bar cross v bar. Now we know linear momentum p. Linear momentum. So linear momentum is equal to linear momentum p bar is equal to mv bar. Now we know momentum is the product of mass and velocity. So linear momentum is equal to linear momentum p bar is equal to m into v bar. So if I put v bar is equal to p bar upon m here, then what we get, see, delta A bar upon delta t. Delta A bar upon delta t is equal to 1 upon 2. So let's put here, instead of V bar, I put here P bar upon M. So momentum upon mass. Now we know here R bar cross P bar is there. Now R bar is the moment. So here L bar, that is angular momentum. Angular momentum L bar is equal to R bar cross P bar there. So R bar cross P bar is the angular momentum, and here then we get the formula, therefore delta A bar upon delta T is equal to 1 upon 2 into L bar upon M, because R bar cross P bar is equal to L bar. Now here for central force, and here we already discussed that gravitational force is a central force, because central force is always acting along the line joining the two objects. So here the gravitational force is also acting along the line joining the sun and planet. So here for central force, the L is conserved. For central force, that angular momentum is always constant. So if for central force the angular momentum is constant, then we can say that delta A bar upon delta T is equal to L bar upon twice M, and it is constant here. It is constant. So this proves the law of areas. This is a consequence of gravitational force being central force here. So this equation, this area upon time is equal to constant, that is area upon time, area per unit time is always equal to constant. So the area sweeps out in a particular time interval is always constant. So this is the proof of Kepler's second law here, and here this is consequence of gravitational force is always a central force. Now from the so after this two second law, Kepler's second law, now let's see the Kepler's third law, that is called law of period. So let's study the Kepler's third law, that is law of periods. See the Kepler's third law, that is called law of period. Now what is the statement of law of period? See, the square of the time period, the square of the time period of revolution, the square of the time period of revolution of a planet around the sun is proportional to the cube of the semi-major axis. Semi-major axis of the ellipse traced by the planet. So this is the statement of Kepler's third law, that is called law of periods here. Now what is the law of periods? See again, the square of time period of revolution of the planet, the square of time period of the revolution of planet around the sun is proportional to the cube of semi-major axis of the ellipse traced by the planet. Now we know semi-major axis in the first law of orbit, we know in the elliptical orbit semi-major and semi-minor axis are there. So in this case the semi-major axis, the period of time period of revolution. So what is time period here? See, time period is the periodic time of revolution, that is the time required to complete one revolution for the planet around the sun. So to complete one revolution for a planet, that time is called time period, and time period is denoted by capital T. So what is here? The square of time period, that is T square, is proportional to, this is proportional to the cube of semi-major axis. Here semi-major axis is R, so R cube. So this is the statement of Kepler's third law, that is law of period, that is T square is proportional to R cube. Now we know if two quantities are proportional to each other, then their ratio is always constant. So here we write T square upon R cube. Here we write if two quantities are proportional to each other, so here T square is proportional to R cube. So here those two quantities which are proportional to each other, their ratio is always constant. So T square upon R cube is equal to constant here. T square upon R cube is equal to constant here. Now Kepler's laws were based on a regular observation of the motion of planet. These Kepler three laws, that is law of orbit, law of period, law of area, these laws are based on the regular observation of the motion of planets there. Kepler did not know why the planets move in such a orbit or why the planets obeys these laws. That is, he had not derived any laws, just he put these laws on the daily observations. केपलर्सने जे डेली ऑब्झर्वेशन्स केले त्याच्यानुसार केपलर्सने फक्त 3 लॉ पुट केले, but he had not derived any of these laws. So here these are the 3 laws of Kepler. Let's see first law of Kepler. Let's see the statement of 3 law again. The first law of Kepler state that laws of orbit. According to first law, all the planets move in elliptical orbit around the sun with the sun is at one of the foci of the ellipse. This is the Kepler's first law, that every planet revolves around the sun in an elliptical orbit. Kepler's second law, that is law of area, state that the line joins the planet and the sun sweeps out equal area in equal interval of time. So here second law says that the line which joins the planet and sun sweeps out equal area in equal interval of time. So according to this law states that when the planet is nearer to sun, then the speed of planet is more large, or the planet is moving faster when it is close to sun, and when the planet is farthest from the sun or away from the sun, then the speed of the planet is less there. Then the speed of planet is lower. Means when the planet is closest to sun, it move faster, and when it is farthest from the sun, it move slower. Now this is the second law. Now third law, Kepler's third law is the law of period there. The law of period is the square of the time period of revolution of planet around the sun is proportional to the cube of the semi-major axis of the ellipse traced by the planet. Now here time period means the periodic time, that is periodic time means the time taken by the planet to complete one revolution around the sun. So that time taken by the planet to complete one revolution, that time square is proportional to the cube of semi-major axis of the ellipse. So these are the 3 Kepler's laws which we discuss here. Okay, so today this is Kepler's three laws, which we discussed here. In a next lecture, we study about the next point. Thank you.